Hello, welcome to Action College. It's been some days, but today I come back again. So in this video, we are going to see many things in English. As you know, Action College as a school which is leading in Rwanda in languages, Chinese, Spanish, and everything else. But today, I'm not going to talk about Spanish. Don't be afraid, but also if you want it, you can join the class. But me today, I'm going to talk about English. So we are going to see different ways of giving advice and different ways of giving suggestions in English. So I hope today you're going to sound like a native speaker, like American, British, even other people you know that are very fluent and articulate in English. So let's dive in.
Gana action, niba ushaka kwiga ndimi gana action, ushaka kuba umusirimu gana action.
So we are going to talk about 9 phrases for giving advice and 5 phrases for suggesting ideas. I hope from today you're going to become from the beginner level of suggesting, of giving advice, to the advanced level of giving advice. So be with me and stay with me until the end of this video. So you're going from now to speak naturally, to give advice and to articulate your ideas very fluently. So be with me and stay with me. So let's start for the first way of giving advice. The first way is when you are talking advice, you can share starting by if I were you, I would do this and this. So let's see some examples. But before I give you examples, I can show you the structure of building this good sentence of giving advice. First, if I were you, I would plus base verb. You can plus base verb or infinitive. In English, we know that we have infinitives that are verbs start by to, but here we are not going to use by to. You remove to and you add that verb. For example, verb to talk, you remove to and say talk. So, example, if I were you, I would talk to your manager about the issue. It is possible that if you are in your business, if you are somewhere else, you can suggest using if I were you. And also, while I'm still talking about this, I can say if I were in your shoes, I would do this and this. For example, if I were in your shoes, I would listen to my parents. That's an example. The second example, if I were you, I wouldn't ignore those warning signs. There is a time you need to give the advice to your friend. Maybe he is rejecting some advice, some important words from some people, but you can say that if I were you, I wouldn't ignore those warning signs. So from today, you're going to use this phrase, that is the first. So, but also we have how you can reply. If you think that someone gave you a good advice, you can say just, that's good point. Wow. And I hadn't thought about that. You can show that way to show that it is a positive reply. Maybe I would tell you that if it is negative reply, you can say like, keep your advice, but here it is when it is a positive, of course. The second way you can give advice is to use you might want to consider. So if you want to give advice, you can use this phrase, and the structure is here. You might want to consider plus noun, or you can plus gerund. So gerund is the verb that is ended by ing form, or what we can call present participle. For example, we can say that you might want to consider taking a break before deciding. So if you are like giving an advice, someone to take a decision, you can say you might want to consider taking a break before deciding. There are people when they are stressing. So if they are stressing, you can encourage them or you can advise them to take some break, maybe take some free time of thinking. So this you can use this phrase. Also, you can say you might want to consider another option. This is when you see that that person needs to consider another option, which is different to what he is having or what his other people are giving to him. So you might want to consider another option. It means that maybe he has some way he wants to do something, but you want to encourage that person to think differently. So that is how you can use it. You can use this way of replying. You can say, that sounds reasonable. Or let me give it some thoughts. So you can say, that sounds reasonable. Let me give some thoughts. So if you're using this, of course, this means that you thought that the advice someone gave you is very nice. If something you think that it is good, you can use this way of replying. Wonderful. Now, number 3 is to use it might a good idea. It might be good idea. Say, it might be good idea to, you can plus something. For example, you can say, it might be good idea to save money before traveling. You know, the people, if you're encouraging them to save money, sometimes they are spending too much, but if it is your friend, you can tell him or her that it might be a good idea to save some money, of course. The second, you can say, it might be a good idea to speak to a professional. Maybe it is a consultant one in a business. Maybe it is someone who is struggling with the problem with a business. Maybe it is someone who is struggling with failures in life. Just you can encourage him by advising him that it might be a good idea to speak to a professional in a given career. Good. So then you can reply like, if the idea you think that is good, if that possibility you are showing that it's good, you can say, thanks. I think that's something worth doing. You know, when you say this means that you appreciate the idea, you are appreciating the advice someone gave you. I hope from today you're going to use it, of course. Number 4, you can say you'd better off. So also this is a way we use for giving advice when you show that there is something which is more important to someone. So when you're showing something is more important to someone, you can say you'd better off. For example, you can say you'd better off waiting until the next week. Maybe you see someone is rushing, of course. Maybe someone is not taking time of thinking. You can encourage this person to think about what he's going to do next. So that's why you say you'd better off waiting until next week. Second example, you'd better off not mentioning that right now. Maybe it can be someone you think that is not giving good idea. You can show the best way you think that something can work. That's why here you can say you'd better off not mentioning something right now. Means that you think that it's better for this person to mention it next time. So if you think that that person gave you the best option, you can say that good advice. So that's good advice. You can say, I'll keep that in mind. You know, when you are showing that you cared about something, you can tell someone, I'll keep that in mind. So that's why you say good advice. I will keep that in mind. So you can say also, have you thought about, plus gerund. Even you can say, have you ever thought about this? Also, it is possible. So it means that it is a good way to give advice. For example, here you can say, have you thought about moving closer to work? Maybe you see that someone is living far away at their work, but if you want to encourage him to come closer to work, you can say that, have you ever thought about moving closer to work? Even you can say, have you ever thought about learning a new skill? Many see that that person sounds traditional, but you can tell him, you can advise him to take a new skills like learning English at the Action College. So that's how you can do it professionally. So you can tell someone, maybe you want him to study new language. Have you ever thought about learning French or Spanish or other languages? So this is a good advice then. So that is how you can reply. You can say, maybe if that advice is matching to what you've been thinking, you can say, actually, I've been thinking about that latterly. It's a good idea. So that is the way of replying. So the sixth, you can give advice to someone. You can say, my advice would be, this is a conditional way. So if we are using conditional, it is also a professional way of giving advice. Of course, from today, you are going to use this way, my advice. My advice would be, and plus to plus base verb. So I told you that base verb, it is infinitive one. For example, you can say, my advice would be to listen carefully before you respond. Many people don't like to respond when they understand something, but you can encourage someone. My advice would be to listen carefully, for example, to the parents, maybe to your reader, to your superior, to anyone you would like to recommend him to listen to. Also, you can say, my advice would be to remain calm during the interview. When a person is in an interview, there is time you want to speak, but it's not appropriate. But you can give advice to someone. My advice would be to remain calm during the interview. So not only for these examples I gave, because these are two only, but you can just change. Because I gave you structure, you can use my advice would be to, and continue. Maybe it's to talk to someone, maybe it is to speak to someone, maybe it's to have a lunch with someone, maybe just you can add and you can change this formula as you want. It depends on the idea you have to give an advice. So also we can say, if you are replying, thanks, I'll follow that recommendation. So you can show that you are very interested in someone's advice. So from today, you're going to sound like an advanced learner of English.
Gana action, niba ushaka kwiga indimi, gana action, ushaka kuba umusirimu, gana action.